Okay, so we're back again. I'm Tim, and this is Jen. Hello, Jen.
Hi.
Right. So if you've already seen our first video where we were just introducing and giving a bit of an overview, in this one we thought we would just zoom out as much as we could and look at the world as a whole and just how we see it, and I'm sure some of you see it in terms of how the world works, and you know where the trouble starts, I guess. You know, where the pain and the kind of horror, not to get too dark, but you know, that seeps down into every aspect of our lives. Where does that really begin? You know, and who are the key players that are peddling and carrying that on? Yeah, is that roughly what we wanted to
Yeah, I
talk
think
about?
so. Yeah.
So if I maybe just from my perspective, and then maybe if you want to give yours, but for me, I don't really look at countries. I look at like this global web where you've got a very, very tiny percentage of humans, if you want to call them that have full control of the puppet strings, pretty much, right? So these are my top ones: unelected billionaires, members of the WEF, you know, the WHO, the Bilderberg Group, Rockefeller. So it's people of that ilk, and obviously there's not that many of them. And so these people, and also obviously people at the very top of the biggest corporations in the world, the multinationals in most countries. So that's kind of, and royal families as well, I think mostly we can say as well. So those people with the money, therefore with the power, they're all kind of in bed with each other, right? So they're all kind of, you know, they've got their ways of working together and conspiring together to have more success, make more money, have more control, have more power, and all of that at our expense, right? That's you know, the basics of it. And then through every possible mechanism, that filters down into our lives, like we said in the last video, into every aspect of our lives, from what we eat to what we breathe, you know, to what we buy, to, you know, what kind of health service we get, what kind of energy we get, you know, the list just goes on and on. So once you see that, you then look at anything that seems to be going on in the world, especially to do with war, you know, or severe poverty, or you know, a severe lack of a resource somewhere, or a massive political problem. It's you look at the governments, and some people at that level, you know, when they're looking at it at that level from their perspective, will say, well, it's the government's fault. The government is terrible. You know, that's the cause of our difficulty. You know, we need to change the government. That's never going to change anything, because you cut off one head and another one grows back, because it's all uniparties now, right? So once you see that, you realise that government officials and ministers are stooges, basically, right? To these people with the money and the power. And so once you realise that, you're like, it doesn't matter who I vote for, that's not going to make any difference at all. Therefore, and then you look at you know, wars, and you realise that this same group of people at the top are funding all sides. So what seems to be you know, and they're firing up the hatred between different groups of people. You want to turn people against each other. The more you do that, the more power and control you can assert, because people start turning to you, because they're like, you know, I'm different here, this group, from that group over there, different religion, different nationality, whatever it is, skin colour, religion, whatever, the list goes on and on. So once you see all of that, you realise that the whole thing is a stage with all these players, and none of them have got your interests at heart. None of them care about you. They only care about themselves and maintaining or having more power and asserting more control. So, and this is virtually every country in the world. So once you understand that, you start pulling back from all of it, right? And you start claiming your own power and your own sovereignty. And you realise that you don't need to affiliate or attach with any of that anymore. You can still dip into certain things that are going to be useful as you step onto your own path, but apart from that, the rest is like, you know, you start to turn away, don't you, and choose a different path in life that hopefully will do a lot of good and will actually create some meaningful change in the world. I'll stop talking there because that was a mouthful, but yeah, go on, Jen. You go.
So yeah, that was really well said. I'd like to zoom out further than that.
Please do.
So there's quite a lot of people know but are not necessarily saying. I come from like a very woke background, and therefore am surrounded by a lot of very woke people, and I'm not using that term as a way of dividing or even criticising. I've tried to wake people up, and I've tried to help people see what I can see because I care about them. And the thing that has systematically stopped me from doing that is that I can't get people to understand the joined up nature of like the global narcissism. So the way that the governments are all joined up, the way that the corporations and the energy companies and like how it's all joined together, like basically the conspiracy. So people like us are always deemed conspiracy theorists, which is fine by me because that's what we are. So zooming out, how did this happen? Well, we're not the only species in the universe, for sure, and that would be mathematically impossible. So we actually lined up for extinction because we basically effed everything up, like big time. So we got hijacked, and we got hijacked by another species. And if you zoom out even further than that, there's been a battle between God and Lucifer. So if you look at it kind of in a very simplistic way, to simplify something extremely complicated, the God side of things, divinity, and actually I think it's all God, it's all divinity. The dark side of things is just the absence of love. So on the light side, you've got love, you've got people being with themselves, working towards their own potentials, listening to themselves, choosing their own destiny, basically free will, choice, which I think is the meaning of life. So on the one hand, you've got free will, choice. On the Luciferian side, which I know quite a lot about, having been a Catholic in my upbringing, you've got the absence of love, the absence of free will, basically being hijacked by others. So you've got the narcissist thing going on that side, you've got the codependent thing kind of sort of going on that side. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but if you zoom back down to what Tim was saying from his perspective, the Keir Starmers of this world, like, you know, the politicians, the corporate side of things, they've been hijacked, and they agreed to play things a different way for someone else, and they abandoned themselves, and they've been taken over. And yes, they're human, but their humanity it kind of left them. That's how it's all joined up. It's an energy, and in my opinion, God is an energy. This is what a lot of people are not saying because they're worried about ridicule, they're worried about losing their credibility. You know, many people have kind of like lost everything, and sort of you get to a point where you're not worried about losing anything anymore.
Especially if you've lost it all multiple times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Me and Tim both have like an interesting thing in our astrology. We've both got a Pluto complex, which means death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death again, rebirth.
Oh, it's death again. Hello. Yeah.
And life's got easier since we've like found that out. And that's probably what drew us together as friends as well. So yeah, back to you. I mean, like I liked your perspective there, but it sort of, in the way that I've been trying to talk to people, there's always been something missing, and it's the thing above. It's like, yeah, but how can they all be in on it and we can't see, you know?
No, I love that. I think it's great to have that side of things brought in and to actually remind me of those layers, because I do see them too, and they pop into my mind at different times. But because I'm still somewhat plumbed into the corporate world, that's the area that makes me the most angry, because I can see it, you know, clear as day, and nobody's doing anything about it, or practically no one, you know. And I do believe, in terms of free will, you know, for those of us that are plumbed in some way to that area of life, we can have some power, we can make a difference, you know. And I guess for me and you, you know, in our path in this life, we are continually looking for, where can I make the most difference? What am I the most passionate about, where I can actually bring about some real change? Yeah. You know, so, but I love that, you know, it's those levels. We need to talk about that stuff more often, to be honest, to bring me into it more. But I think there's something really important you said there about humanity, and that's what we are coming back to, aren't we? You know, and that's what we want for everybody, to find their humanity again, to show that it's possible to reclaim it despite what this world has done to us. Yeah. You know, I think that's, I mean, one of the most intense things for me has been, like, Tim gets really angry about the corporate stuff because that's his background. I've been a teacher in a primary school. I was a teacher for 10 years, and I saw children systematically disempowered and taken away from themselves. I didn't see much evidence of children having their potential nurtured, and I had to leave the profession because of the horrors that I was seeing every day that I didn't want to play a part in anymore. And I also worked for the NHS in mental health services for a few years, and again, horrors. And I have a lot of people around me who still work in the systems, and they still go to work even though they can see the bad stuff. And being a sensitive soul, I couldn't do that anymore. And I don't judge people who are doing that, but that's why we're in this situation now, because people turn a blind eye. People don't take responsibility for what is all it's our collective responsibility to bring change. And you can't bring change if you're remaining in that system, feeding your energy into there's a wasp. Wow. Timely.
You can't change.
That's a sign. Watch out for the wasp. It's coming for you as soon as you speak about this stuff. Yeah. So I was just going to, if you don't mind, I was just going to say there's a great thing, the phrase that's come to me recently, and it's understandable because people live in fear, right? We've been programmed to live in fear, but it is moral cowardice. It is moral cowardice of everyday people, you know, and we've both been there and done it, you know, through our lives, but that is probably the biggest thing that has caused the most damage on this planet, beyond the agendas of these, you know, megalomaniacs. It's the moral cowardice of people because they can't get off their knees and stand, you know. So
but where does the cowardice come from? It comes from trauma.
Yeah.
It comes from being a victim. It comes from bullying. It comes from being the victim of something that you can't control.
Disempowered.
So like, neither of us are coming from this kind of high and mighty perspective of we've got it right and everybody else has got it wrong.
Because we certainly haven't got it right.
We've fucked up more than most people I know, and continue to.
Yeah.
But along the way, we've like picked up a few kind of truth bombs, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really important to say. I think in any of the stuff that we talk about, there's a is this still on? We always acknowledging like our paths and the struggles we've had and the amount of times we've fucked up, and even recently, and still learning lessons, and and being in fear sometimes, and we really do acknowledge that in other people. Like, no wonder you get into these scary spaces where you can't speak out, or you're fearful of losing your job, you fear, like you said before, of your losing your credibility and livelihood and all that other stuff. But what is the price of doing that? Because we saw from 2020 through to this year even, the price was so high that millions have to die. Is that surely that price is too high now, right?
Well, I mean, I've paid quite a lot of prices because I haven't lost everyone, but I pretty much have. I've lost a lot over the last few years to be in integrity, to remain in integrity, and I think it's a thing that happens anyway when people get on the spiritual path. You have pretty much everything stripped away from you, and then if you have a Pluto complex, that happens again and again and again and again and again. Yeah. A humbling experience, but a lot of people I know, they're continuing on with stuff they don't agree with so they can pay the mortgage, so they can support the kids, so that they can feel normal, so that they can go home and stay in their bubble of Netflix with their red wine. But I mean,
ignorance is bliss, right? Until it's not.
Apparently. Yeah, and the bubble is going to pop. Yeah,
and boy has it been popping, I guess, in the last few years.
Well, it is popping.
Yeah.
It has popped. Yeah. Some people haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, I guess the collective bubble, yeah, but like individual bubbles, like, yeah. So I think that's kind of what we wanted to cover, didn't we, in this one? I think we kind of got
we zoomed out and then we zoomed out again. Then again.
Yeah. But there's some really important, like we've just discussed.
That's right. Really, we've tried to simplify.
Yeah. How do you bottle all of that, and
like really intense knowledge and wisdom into kind of bite-sized chunks? But
yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do, obviously, because that's the way the world is, and
we don't care what people think.
Yeah, I think that's an important...
Which is so liberating.
That's an important message, isn't it? I think especially as people who are awakening in their own lives, it's like the less you care about what other people think, the more of your own personal power you find, and you start to develop your own sense of sovereignty. But that being said, raging against the machine doesn't work either, and we both know that. And I think that's a reminder as well, is raging against the machine isn't the answer. It's the internal transformation of the self and cultivation of your own garden which will bring about actual change a lot of the time. And going out there and bricking windows or whatever, that's not the answer at all. But obviously some people, when they're starting off on their journey and they're really angry, they do that kind of stuff. But that's completely, that's not even in this conversation, I don't think. But I just wanted to end with what are we? I was thinking of a few key words that kind of sum it up. We're humanists. We believe in the goodness and power of human beings, and populists. So we believe that all humans, or virtually all on this planet, have a good soul and they want to do the right thing, and also that we're synarchists because we believe that everybody, when they're correctly positioned in life, can actually give something really meaningful and be effective and be a part of something worthwhile. So I think that's the big three, I would say.
Well, the age of bullshit is over, and the games of pretend have been played, and we're not playing anymore.
No.
So we're interested in, on a personal level, for both of us, we want to line up with the truth of ourselves, and we're still working on that. but we're also interested in teaching people how to do that. Not easy. But when you line up with yourself, everything is effortless.
Yeah, so you start getting into flow, right?
Yeah. So that's the direction we've been going in for a long time, and it's the direction actually that humanity is going in, believe it or not.
No matter what.
But we have to have this bullshit explosion first. So
yeah.
And we knew it was coming. Like we saw that it was coming, and we got out ahead of it.
We did.
So the games of pretend have been played. So we're interested in authenticity now, and the bullshit is boring, and it's so last year.
Absolutely, yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't have said it better. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful, maybe inspiring to some degree. Yeah, I mean, we're here. You know, if you want to collaborate or you want help, or you know you've got some ideas, then let us know, because you know we've got on a train, haven't we? You know, and so we're very curious to see what the next stop's going to be. You can find out information about us both and what we do. We'll put links in the comments, and then yeah, just watch out for the further videos, because we'll be doing a lot more.
Thank you for listening.
Right. Thanks everybody. Bye.